Hi, so today we're going to talk about how to overcome insecurities in your relationship. Now, what if I told you that I don't think that you have an insecurity? Insecurities are labels, and sometimes labels can keep us stuck. Labels tell us that this is who I am, so therefore I have to act in this capacity. I want you to think about if you are a high achieving woman, you are loyal, you are responsible, you take your responsibilities very seriously. So if you tell yourself that I am insecure, or someone else tells you that, and you say, oh my gosh, this is who I am, now I need to uphold this label. Right? And so when we talk about how to overcome insecurities in our relationship, I first want you to wipe away, maybe I'm not insecure. Let me take off this label, because then I get to have some experiences to understand myself better. So one of the ways of how you can overcome insecurity in your relationship is saying, how can I get to understand me better? When before it may have been, let me understand this label better. Let me understand how I'm supposed to act now that I'm insecure. What do I do in a relationship? But we're going to take away the label and we're just going to take you as you are. So I just want you to say your name and just say, I'm having these experiences that make me question my role in relationships. And so that can be, sometimes I don't feel confident. Sometimes I don't feel sexy. Sometimes I don't feel like, I'm not sure if he still wants me. Sometimes I'm not sure if my judgment is good. I'm not sure if I'm questioning myself. I'm not sure if I'm just an imposter. Like, should I even be in this relationship? Should I even have this role? Am I deserving of this person? Is this the best thing for me? So sometimes we question all these things and we label them as insecurities, but maybe they're actually just normal experiences that most of us have. Maybe we have them all at one time, or at least it feels that way. And then there's times when we have maybe bits and pieces at different times of our lives and at different times in this relationship that we're like, oh my goodness, I'm being insecure. And then we start to question our judgment. We start to question, what should I say? What should I do? Maybe I should do something differently. Maybe I should handle something differently. And therefore we put this all into a nice box of insecurity. But maybe this relationship and maybe just where you are in your life has triggered something that has happened with you in the past. Maybe this has triggered something like, you know what, I thought I forgot this experience. I forgot when this boyfriend broke my heart way back when, because I got a good career and I've had other relationships since then. But maybe this new experience is reminding me of something that I have experienced before. So how would you overcome this feeling of insecurity? Is saying, I need to kind of go back and deal with what wounds are coming up now that I'm in this new experience, and have some grace in doing so. So you want to get clarity about you, not the label of being insecure, or not knowing how that fits. I need to get clarity about myself, and that's one of the things to do. And so as we go through this, we might come across some stuck points, right? And stuck points may look like, am I failing, right? Am I doing this wrong? Whatever this is, right? Am I doing this wrong? What if I'm rejected? What if that rejection further fuels my insecurity? And that may make us go back to one of the original concerns of questioning our judgment. And so what if we think about the opposite, right? Instead of failing, what is it? What if you're right, right? What if you're doing a great job? What if you're doing the best that you can? If you're doing it wrong, what if you're doing it right? And who's actually around to say that this is wrong? Like, whose opinion are we taking? And if it's your own opinion, if this is your own definition, guess what? You get to redefine it. You get to say that, you know what? I'm doing this the best that I can. This is my version of right. Because you made the rule, you get to break the rule. If you say, what if I'm rejected? Now, rejection is a difficult one because none of us wants to raise our hand to be rejected. None of us wants to have that experience. But have you been rejected before? Most of us have had our heart broken before. Yes, it has maybe set us back for some time, maybe longer than what we'd want. But have you learned to managed through that? Have you learned to overcome that? Has the pain lessened where sometimes maybe you even forgot it? You don't know if you've healed from it or suppressed it, but maybe it doesn't have the same intensity. So let's go ahead and give yourself some space and some grace to say, you know what? I've been rejected before. Yes, it's an unpleasant feeling, but I've also learned a lot about myself since then. I have also learned a lot about people since then. So if I'm rejected, I'm going to allow myself to have the normal feelings that people might have. I may feel sad. I may feel some grief. I may question some things. But I know enough now to say I don't have to stay there. I don't have to be in that space for a long period of time. I get to allow myself time to grieve. I get to allow myself some space just to experience whatever the rejection is. But then you also get to decide how much risk did you actually give up in this experience. Maybe you gave up some time, but you could have gave up some time and plus another day. Right? Maybe you gave up some money, but you could have gave up some money plus some more, right? Like maybe it could have been this, but I have done better than what I've done before. And if I have not, this is another opportunity to learn, right? This is another opportunity for growth for yourself. And it's like, this gets to be my own experience, right? And maybe another fear is, what if this rejection further fuels my insecurity? Well, this goes back to what we talked about earlier. Maybe it's not fueling this insecurity label. Maybe it's fueling the messaging that you're telling yourself. But we're learning to shift that, right? Like, this isn't rejection. Maybe this is someone that's just not good for me. And then maybe I have now learned that you are not good for me, or I'm not good for you. And while that's sad, and maybe that has changed what my hope was, I'm glad that I know that now versus finding that out later. Right? So I had a client some way back when who was talking about, oh my gosh, I have this insecurity in my relationship and I feel like I'm an imposter. I feel like I have presented myself in this relationship in a way that now I'm showing my true self and I don't know how to handle it. And so I'm going to give you some tips that I shared with this client because she labeled it as insecurity, and as she went through it, I realized that a lot of it was probably just boundaries, and she wasn't sure how to undo the wheel, right? She wasn't sure how to be her authentic self because she feared rejection, right? Don't we often feel rejection? So one of the things that we talked about is what are some realistic goals for you? Right? What is it that you actually want? So sometimes it's hard for us to understand and decide, what do I want? What is considered realistic for me? I want you to just envision yourself just in your own space. I want you to think of the age that you are now. I want you to think about where you live now. I want you to think about your experience now. And I want you to put whatever person aside just for a moment. And I want you just to think for a second, what makes you feel good? What comes to your mind? What do you envision? Right? What would things look like if you could have it your way with no one else's input? And this gets to be your entire experience. What would that look like for you? What would that feel like to you? Right? So one example of having a realistic goal for yourself is saying, you know what? I can do certain things in a relationship, but there's other certain things that I cannot do. So maybe for me, one example, I might say, hey, yes, I would love to go and spend some time with you. Yes, we can go on this outing, but I'm a person that likes to go during the day, right? Maybe or early evening. But if you ask me to go somewhere at 9:30 at night, that's not a realistic goal for me. That's not something that's within my capability of emotional space that I can do that. Why? Because I don't want to be out at 9:30 at night going out, right? And say that up front. One way that you can do that without actually feeling like you're giving it more is that you can say it in the affirmative. Say what you like to do versus oppose what you don't like to do. So instead of me saying, I don't like going out at night, and say, I feel much better going out during the day. I have more energy, I'm more engaging, I have more fun. Like, how about we do this? And this starts at like 3 o'clock. Just say what's realistic for you. The other thing that we talked about is to make sure that you don't abandon yourself. Sometimes we abandon who we are in hopes that we're going to get something in return. So even though we may not like something, we go and do it anyway because we're hoping that we're going to get love, we're going to get commitment, we're going to get validation, we're going to be seen as this great person, we're going to be seen as committed, and we do things that we really don't want to do. So you find yourself sitting at a football game and you hate football, but every Sunday or Thursday or Monday night or whenever football comes on, you're sitting there and you're watching football, you're looking at the highlights, maybe there's a football game you would go to, and maybe you don't completely hate it, but you don't enjoy it that much. So one way to not abandon yourself is saying, hey, I can do this, but this part, I'm going to go do something that I enjoy, but yeah, I would love to sit and watch the game with you on this day. Right? You do what's in your capacity to do and what's not, that you're being honest and you're saying that. And so then your partner knows, gosh, when I know that you're watching football with me, it's not because you have to, it's because you want to be with me. They will actually love that and enjoy that a lot more, that you're doing that for them, right? But they also know that you have boundaries to say, but I'm not going to do it all the time. And so this is our next point. The next point is going into boundaries. All right, what are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? What are some things that you can do? And what are some things that you can't do? So one of the things that I was talking to the client about are, when you say no to things, are these absolutes, right? Or is there room for negotiation? So here's an example. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner where you're not too fond of the parent. You're not too fond of his mom or maybe his dad or his sister or his brother. Maybe you're not too fond. But is that an absolute no that you will never go to their home? Is it an absolute no that they can never come to your home? Is it an absolute no that you all can never spend time together? Or maybe there's some room for negotiation. Maybe you can go for a short amount of time, right? And say, hey, I can go, but I'm only going to stay a few hours. So if you want to drive separately, maybe we just meet each other there. When I'm ready to go, then we can go. Maybe it's up for some negotiation, right? Or maybe you say, I'm going to go, but maybe you pack some things that you enjoy. You pack a book. Maybe you have a project that you're working on, so you're like, oh, if I get some downtime, or maybe I'm feeling ignored, that's fine, because now I have more space to do some things that I enjoy to do on my computer, or on my phone, or reading a book, or doing a project, or something like that, where you are doing something and saying, I'm not wasting time with something that I enjoy. Maybe you like a good Netflix show. You say, well, you know what, they're doing this. I'm going to watch this Netflix show while they're doing this on my phone. Do something that you enjoy, but if there's room for negotiation, share that. If it's not, then you're being honest and saying, no, I don't have the emotional capacity to do this at all. Now, yes, this may redefine your relationship, right? But you're prepared for that because you have explored, do you have any capacity to negotiate this? And you have determined no, right? And if the person is saying, well, this is not something that I want to do. And now you have an informed decision to do whatever you want to do that makes you happy and moving forward. Right? And so the other thing that I want you to do is accept what is. And that's one of the hardest things for us to do, is just to accept who we are. We try to fight a lot of things that we feel aren't good about ourselves or our experiences. But let's just own it, right? Maybe, okay, this part is true, that I'm very sarcastic, right? I have a huge sarcasm issue. I don't find it to be an issue, but sometimes people do find that to be an issue, right? So I need to be mindful at those times that, yes, I can be sarcastic, and yes, when I notice it, I can scale it back. But there's other times where I'm like, well, sometimes there are some level of sarcasm that people need to understand that I am, as long as I'm not being maliciously hurtful or condescending. And if I am, I encourage people to share that with me, because maybe I may not be self-aware in that moment. Or maybe it might be something that I took as a joke that someone else didn't find funny, right? But I have learned to say, well, you know what? I do have a level of sarcasm to me. There's levels to it. Some are low. Some people notice it. Some is really high. And sometimes it just fluctuates. I don't always know when it happens, right? But I'm honest about that. So when I get this feedback about if I said something to offend people, then I can own it. I'm like, oh, maybe that's the time where it didn't come out as best. Do I beat up on myself? No, because I have already accepted what is. Maybe you have had experiences where you have learned that you can't trust people. Your trust has been betrayed. You have had experiences where you're like, I can't trust people, right? Or maybe I'm guarded in trust. Maybe I need to get to know people first before I trust them. That's okay. Just accept that. We're not going to label ourselves and say, I have trust issues now. No, you're just going to say, you know what, I have reason and experiences that I like to get to know people, and then I get to share as I feel comfortable. So before we close out, I'm going to answer 2 questions that the client that I worked with a while ago had asked me, which I thought were really good questions in terms of how to deal with insecurity in relationships. One of the questions she asked me is, can a person be so insecure that they are too much for a relationship because the insecurity is overbearing? And I said, no, I don't think that's true. I don't think that a person be so insecure that you're not ready, you can't have a relationship. But if you believe that you're so insecure that you can't have a relationship, you may self-sabotage, right? So no, can someone who says I'm insecure and because I have these experiences can have a relationship? Absolutely, you can be in a healthy, wonderful relationship. But if you want to stick to the label, if you want to say, man, my insecurity is so overbearing, which pretty much says I'm not good enough, then you may self-sabotage some relationships. Some ways to cope with that: let's take off the label. Let's say I am worthy of a relationship. I just need to communicate what's best for me and what I need. The second question she asked me, which I thought was a really good question, is it the spouse's job to make you feel secure? No, it is not your spouse's job to make you feel secure. It is your spouse's job to help you to support you in feeling secure within a relationship. So what might that look like? Maybe you may say, you know, I know when my insecurity is triggered. I know when my self-worth or my self-esteem starts to get a little fumbly. I'm start worrying about how I look a little bit more than I typically do. I'm start worrying if I'm good enough or typically do. What are your coping skills? You need to have at least 3 to 5 coping skills of what you need to do to self-soothe. Maybe you take a break for something. Maybe you're doing a little bit too much to say, you know what, let me get back to my center and meditate, breathe, pray, do whatever self-care that you want, and then let me see how I feel. The support your spouse would give, that would look like, maybe they would say, oh yeah, absolutely, go ahead and go get your massage. Yes, take some time to yourself in the room and enjoy your show. Let me know if you need anything. Hey, do you want me to take care of the kids for a while and let you just kind of go out and spend some time to yourself? That's support you're looking for. Right, so hopefully that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share your comments or any questions in the chat. If you want to work with me and speak with me more, I have the Grown Woman 45-Day Effect. That's where we get to work together one-on-one for 45 days for any concern that you have, and then we can work through that. And we're going to do a strategy call and just make sure that I have a complete understanding of what you need, and I will help and work with you to develop a plan that's realistic and that's something that you can see some growth in the 45 days. So there's going to be links in the show notes to connect with me on that. Also, there's some other options to connect and work with me. Check the descriptions out and love to speak with you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and share, and I will see you in the next video.